What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my series, Surviving the Unemployed Life, a big dreamer living in an unfair system. This is part 4, so if you haven't seen part 1 to 3, go and catch up, watch those, come back. But I will do a little summary of part 3. Part 3 was the move from Toronto to Calgary and how the whole unemployed life started. And then at the end of part 3, I said I met some friends. God bless them, because that's how I got into my landscaping job, which brings me to part 4, which I talk a little bit about my landscape job and also about me being a person that was doing all the healing and spiritual work and how it was going back out into the world being all healed. All right, so let's get into some storytelling. So again, I told you guys in part 3, from September when I touched down in Calgary to April when landscaping started, I had to figure my shit out. And I did. Shout out to me. Instead of flying back to Toronto all scared like I wouldn't make it, I stood my ground. So I was doing hair to make up for my rent. I was also getting help from my family and close friends. And when I needed groceries, I was using the food bank. And let me tell you, I didn't want to use the food bank at first, y'all, because my bougie spiritual ass was like, I want healthy food. I don't want anything with preservatives in it. So, and I know back in the days using the food bank, how that was. Like, they would give you crappy stuff. But God bless, like, I did the food bank and I was getting some organic things. So I was like hella grateful. When I realized that I finally had things under control during those months before leading up to landscaping, I finally went back into doing the work. Because also I did have a overstanding landlord that like kind of empathized with me and let me pay my rent when I could. So like, God bless all of this. Like, man, looking back, it's just like, wow. But yeah, I finally had things under control and they knew that I was going into landscaping. So they're like, okay, she gonna pay us her rent when she starts working. I ain't no squatter. So that gave me the time to be a little relief. And well, I was still kind of a little stressed because I'd be stressing about bills a lot, but it's okay. Like, I've been working on that. So I was okay enough to go get back into my inner work leading up to landscape. And I was continuing to meditate 2 to 3 times a day and fast once a week. And I was grateful. I was on a grateful high that I could finally have a job that let me pay my bills on time. Because also being broke and having nothing, guys, because I had no furniture. This was my first apartment. I just had a mattress and my laptop, and then my appliances. I had what I needed. And being that minimalist was kind of like, you really don't need a lot of shit. You just need you just need food, water, and shelter. And I had all of that. So yeah, I was just hella grateful that I can work this landscaping job so that I had the money to pay my bills, because I'm like, honestly, that's all I gotta do is pay my bills. Oh, and listen, y'all, during the pandemic, I experienced having my freedom. I experienced my sovereignty, okay? I experienced that, and I told myself I was never going to go back to a 9-to-5 job. I said, fuck that. But the only reason why I got back in landscaping is because like, again, look at how my situation was, and I knew when it was time to like put my ego aside. Like, okay, I was so caught up in the distractions and the stress and worry about my bills, I didn't even have time. Mind you, while all of this was happening, I wasn't even working on my whole personal training stuff because I was stressed out. And then I was also doing the healing work. And when I was doing the healing work, I came to another realization: I don't even want to personal train at all. So I went through a whole rebranding as well, guys. I gave up personal training. I changed my Instagram name from Train with Rain to Take What Resonates. And yeah, that was that. So again, because I dropped personal training, that was a reason why I remained unemployed. So you'll see there's a whole pattern with this, why I'm still unemployed till this day, and why it keeps happening. But yeah, because I stopped training, I wasn't making training money, but I was doing hair. So it brings me back to landscaping. I humbly decided to go back into landscaping, and the only reason why I was convinced to do that was because it's seasonal, and I was told I work my whole summer and I get my winter off. I'm like, fine, I'll do that. Because look at the situation I put myself into. It would be dumb to turn down this opportunity. So fast forward into April, I started landscaping. I was in my grateful energy. I was happy to be there. I was working. There was still snow on the ground like the first day I remember, and our boss had us freaking mowing snow, and I'm just like, what the frick is this? But it's okay, Shireen. You could pay your bills on time now. But yeah, landscaping started. And how landscaping is, the season starts off slow where you're just working Monday to Friday and then you have your weekends off. But once it picked up, this is where things got a little hard, right? So once landscaping season picked up, you work Monday to Saturday, and it's like the hours go from like 5 to 8 hours to like 13, 14, 15 hours a day. And then Saturdays were half days. Saturdays didn't make sense, but our boss insisted, oh, that's when you go into overtime, you make the most, and you have to work Saturdays. Me realizing midway through the season that like Saturdays are bullshit because it ended up going towards taxes. Yeah, that's when the other side of Shireen kicked in. It went from the grateful Shireen to the what the fuck am I doing here? Fuck this job. And I'm telling you, every job I worked, I go from like top-notch great worker to fuck this place, because I told you guys deep down inside I knew I was destined for greatness. Like I knew I should be doing something better. Why am I doing this? But I also remembered why I was doing landscaping, so I'm like, okay, I pushed through, but I was counting down the days. And now talking a little about, you know, a healing person, like that's like doing her spiritual discipline with her spiritual practices and doing the inner work. How it was for me getting back into landscaping, it was hard. I completely fell off of my meditating. I completely fell off of my fasting. I couldn't, like, I was working too much, and I would come home and literally go to bed while the sun is still up. I'm telling you guys, that whole summer I worked landscaping, I think I only got to see a sunset like 2 times, because I would go to bed every day at like 8 o'clock, 9 max. So I completely fell off my practice, and also had to learn a big lesson as well. While working landscaping, I realized, oh damn, there was a cycle and a lesson in my life that I have not yet closed out. And reflecting back on that, that's what I realized. But in that moment, I thought I was being tested and I was failing. So I was kind of beating up myself, guys. Like, I fell off my practice. And then my coworkers, like, I love them. It was a fun experience. But also, like, I didn't go into landscaping as my healed self. I was too scared to show the world my healing self, my spiritual self, like this spiritually disciplined Shireen. I was too scared. So what I did is I went from a high frequency, and immediately I brought myself down to my coworkers' frequency and basically circled back to the old Shireen and her ways, kind of. I don't want to get into that, but basically, yeah, I felt like I was just disappointed in myself because I was working my life away. I was giving up my time, energy, and life to landscaping. I fell off my spiritual practices, and I also brought myself down to a low frequency to fit in with my coworkers. So basically, guys, like midway through the season, I was just like, I was over it. I was over it, and I was pissed because I'm like, wow, all that work, and where did it get me? Basically, I had one of those, but it's okay. Like, again, reflecting back on it now, I realized it was just a cycle that I had to, it was a lesson that I wasn't done learning. So it is what it is. But I was counting down to the end of the season. I was about done with landscaping. I already came up with a decision. I ain't going back to landscaping next year. I'm going to, all the time I have off in the winter, I am going to work on myself. I'm going to rebrand myself. I'm going to work on Take What Resonates. I'm going to be a boss lady, and I won't have to go back to landscaping next year. So yeah, boom, I came up with the decision. I wasn't going to go back to landscaping, which is where I'm going to start wrapping up part 4, because it's going to bring me to the off-season part. Overall, I just want to say, though, I'm grateful that I got to do I got to experience that landscaping. I had to go out and learn the lessons I needed to. Yeah, so part 5, I'll get into the off season after landscaping. You guys made it to the end. Thank you. That wraps up part 4. I'll catch you guys in part 5. Peace, y'all.